Good evening, listeners. I, Shiva Rakesh, welcome you to the English program. This evening, we have with us two educators Miss Anupam Chaudhary, who molds young lives and trains minds in the capacity of a school principal. And we also have with us Dr. Nidhi Nagar, who is an assistant professor in statistics, as such, in charge of dealing with the hearts and minds of those who have grown up and yet need a gentle pat here and a caress there to fully enable a matured and positive mindset. I welcome both of you to the studios of Akashvani Lucknow.
Thank you, ma'am.
Friends, when we talk about our society, our families, and our surroundings, the one big issue each one of us faces is that of emotional maturity. We value success in the worldly sense, and yet the question is, can that success be called so? Or even be achieved in the worldly realm without emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence and how it affects our lives? It is precisely to understand this concept that our guests will be telling us more about it. Welcome to the studios once again. Nidhi and Anupam, you're both educators and you're dealing with young mindsets. Talking about emotional intelligence, can you tell our listeners what actually is emotional intelligence and what is the difference between emotional quotient and intelligence quotient, that is EQ and IQ?
Thank you, Shivaji. So, IQ is something which we are born with. Everybody has a particular intelligence quotient with which he is born. Now, when we talk about emotional intelligence, it is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions when we are dealing with ourselves and when we are dealing with others. So, IQ is something which is going to be static all our lives, while emotional intelligence we can work upon and we can continue enhancing it day by day in our life to improve our relationships.
This is a very important distinction. So, why, Nidhi, is emotional intelligence important today?
In the present context, the thrust of education has been on intellectual quotient by far. But now it has been realized, whether it is in the early child education or in the higher education perspective, the individual who is intellectually sound needs to survive in a dynamic environment. We are living in an environment which is volatile, which is uncertain, which is complex and ambiguous. So basically, we are preparing our youth and generations for a future which is unknown to us as well. And in that perspective, I would say that emotional quotient would outweigh the intelligence quotient.
There is something when we talk about society, we talk about students, we talk about young minds who are being trained and motivated to achieve something in life. We are also following up to the standards of the Sustainable Development Goals, that is the SDGs. Now, there is something called the SEL there. I would like you to tell our listeners more about SEL and also whether EI, that is emotional intelligence, and SEL, similar concepts, or is there a difference between the two of them? Anupam, starting with you, please.
We need to understand that social emotional learning and EI, which is talking about emotional learning, they all are part of the same framework, but SEL includes other people also as a whole, as a community. While we talk about social emotional learning, it means that as a social animal, we have to deal with our emotions and we have to deal with others' emotions. So when we talk about EI gives us the perspective for both interpersonal skills and intrapersonal, meaning when we are dealing with our emotions and when we are dealing with other emotions.
But Nidhi, if emotional intelligence is a comprehensive concept in its own self, where is the need for the SEL then?
Let me add to what Anupam has said and answer your question in that context. I would say that SEL is a bigger comprehensive framework in which, and it is more about the process.
All
Social
right.
emotional learning is more about the process, whereas emotional intelligence is one of the outcomes associated with that process. For example, when Anupam ji said that EI is basically more about interpersonal skills and more on the person individual focused, SEL moves in a bigger domain wherein social interactions also happen. So as per the collaborative of academics and social emotional learning framework, along with the emotional intelligence, there are 5 SEL competencies that we talk about. One is self-awareness, another is self-management, third one is social awareness, fourth one is relationship management, and fifth one is responsible decision making. All taken together would be a part of bigger SEL framework. And emotional intelligence that deals with managing emotions of the individual, taking care of the perspectives of others or emotions together, that would be taken care of by the EI itself.
All right. So then, if you're talking about emotional intelligence, we're talking about SCL, and all these things form a part of the Sustainable Development Goals. What then is emotional literacy? I mean, these concepts are so confusing for the general people. Everything is emotional, and what is emotional actually remains so. So, where is the need for EI, EQ, and where is the need for emotional literacy? What actually is that?
That's a wonderful question. Emotional literacy is knowing about our emotions. At times sometimes we are not able to define how we are feeling. So at a school level, I teach my students that whether what you're feeling is irritation, is it disgust, is it anger, or is it aggression? So even though they're part of the same wheel, we call it emotional wheel, and under that they all come, but until unless the child knows, because if we are able to handle them at the level of irritation, they will not reach the level of aggression. So emotional literacy talks about the vocabulary building amongst younger students, so that when they grow up, they know how to tell others that how they are feeling. So, and they understand, and they also are able to pinpoint what the other person might be feeling. So mapping is very important.
Right. So, if I'm able to understand it correctly, and you might correct me if I am incorrect somewhere, emotional literacy is basically the gradation and mapping of emotions. As far as the training of young minds is concerned,
Our Indian knowledge system, we talk about manas, chit, ahamkar, and intellect, which is buddhi.
Right.
So basically, when we talk about mapping of our emotions, recognizing our emotions, expressing our emotions, that is one part that deals with emotional literacy. And then EI is about being able to regulate those emotions and frameworks that we have learned in the context bigger than that. For example, as Anupam ji has rightly said, that when we become aware of what we are feeling, but how we express it, and suppose in the social hierarchical setup, maybe our workplace or the study place, we as a learner, as a person, should know how to express it amicably without hurting the feelings of others and like that.
So I can add on here that we in EI use an approach which is called a ruler approach. So in that we recognize our emotions, we understand our emotions, then we label our emotions. So labeling becomes the part of emotional literacy, and then when we know about this, then we know to express about emotions, and ultimately then we come to know about regulating our emotions.
all right. So that's a lot many concepts about emotional intelligence, and I hope listeners you're enjoying this conversation that we're having with Nidhi Nagar, who's an assistant professor, and Anupam Chaudhary, who is a school principal. Now, both of you are educators. You are dealing with different mindsets. What are your experiences when it comes to emotional intelligence with students, and are there any barriers that you face as teachers, and how do you overcome them? We'll start with you, Anupam.
So Shiba, what happens from the very starting, if we don't train our children, or we don't tell them that what is emotional literacy, we don't build up their vocabulary of expressing themselves, somewhere there are barriers, and as a whole, society, parenting, teachers, school environment, and the neighbors all become part of it. If they don't know how to deal with those emotions, how to express those emotions, and if they're not taught at the right time, at the very ground level, that we have to understand that we can't be doing whatever we want because we are living in a society. So obviously, there are many barriers on which at a school level we have to start working, and we have started doing that.
Okay. What about you, Nidhi?
I would definitely say that the role of school educators is by far more in this regard, because the mind starts developing at a very early age, and it is said that the imprints which are set up in early age are hardly erased in the later half. So when I deal with students in my higher education classes, the challenge is to make them unlearn what they have already learned in the past. So that makes our challenge a little bigger. And when we talk about the barriers that actually happens, then re-raising that part and establishing new systems into their mindset, that becomes a major barrier, because if you are not adept in expressing them, then they tend to have more of burnout issues, suicides, anxiety, depression in higher education, and at that the moment they don't even ask for help.
This leads me to the next question, Nidhi. You said that calibrating students' emotional intelligence is more important at the school level because it is there where we start. Let me ask you that in a society which is pressurizing young minds into achieving a certain type of success in today's world, dominance becomes a question, aggression becomes an issue, anxiety issues are there, societal tendencies are there. How do you manage such things? Because we are not dealing with automatons, we are dealing with human beings.
I think the first and foremost step is to ensure the psychological safety of the person. So, be as an educator, what I, as a parent, also, I think this connection and rapport building with the person is the first and foremost important step in this regard. Because when we have a relationship centered knowledge community, then definitely we can handle challenges that we have just identified together.
But not everybody is as communicative.
Yes,
So communication
definitely.
becomes a major hindrance. And Anupam, here I would like to ask you also that sometimes when we start out at the school level, you have students who are introverts. You don't have many students who would come up and, take part in elocution or debate competitions. So there is a question of, or there is a problem of breaking the ice, as you say. And students are not very comfortable. And that is a part of their original personalities. How do you handle it there?
So obviously, we all are born with certain kind of characteristics and personalities. But EI actually works there because, as I said, that IQ will not be changed. But EQ, we always have options. But it is a slow process. It is not possible that in one day we can create wonders. So obviously, from the very starting, when we start from pre-primary to primary and we start giving them chances, and if there is some child which I find is extremely introvert, I tell her to start slowly, or him. Somewhere we ask them to talk to teachers then. We don't have to push them. If we are being patient as teachers, certainly it's not that every child will be doing as you want and make some changes, but we can't push him towards the wall. So that obviously, the intelligence of teachers also matters a lot here. EI with the teachers also is equally important, and the parents' EI also is equally important when we talk about the students' EI.
You just mentioned parents, Anupam. Nidhi, I would like to ask you, how important is the role of the parents here? And what message, if I might ask you, you would like them to have from your end?
I would say that it is the institution, whether it is a school or the higher education institution, it is the community and the family all together has to have an authentic partnership across them, because all these three stakeholders together constitute that environment in which a younger generation or a person is growing up. So when we want to have a emotionally safe environment for that person, all of the stakeholders have to come forward and unlearn their own conditioning and biases and prejudices from the past and try to provide a safe environment. Because now when we realize the importance is there, we have to have a collaborative approach. PTM should not be about the blame game, rather to have a communicative collaborative dialogue with the parents, so what we together can do for the positive growth of the child.
So a very important point here also, listeners, that while we are dealing with the emotional intelligence factor of those who are around us, we have to understand that the first step is being emotionally intelligent ourselves, so that we can create better societies and our youngsters can be better equipped to deal with the challenges of life later on. The intangibles, as I always say, affect the tangible results. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the English program, where our enlightened guests shared regarding emotional intelligence, emotional learning, emotional capacities, and mental health. I hope that you're able to incorporate all of these qualities into your life so that we are better able to lead our lives in a more emotionally intelligent way, as and when it requires us to do the same. I am very thankful to you, Nidhi Nagar and Anupam Chaudhary, for taking out the time and being a part of this important panel discussion. Thank you very much for being a part of the English program today.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
With this, we come to the end of this edition of the English program with the promise of joining you next week. Shiba says, Namaskar.